All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are taking a closer look at one of the most common, yet most powerful medical tests out there, the Complete Blood Count, or CBC.
It might not look like much, but that one little drop is basically a bustling city, packed with cells that all have a critical job to do. So think of this explainer as your personal microscopic tour guide. We're going to uncover the story your blood tells about your health every single second of the day. So what's our blood actually made of? Well, it breaks down into two main parts. You've got about 55% that's this yellowish liquid called plasma, but the other 45%, that's where things get really interesting. It's packed with cells, and it's inside that 45% that we're going to find the main characters of our story today. Okay, our first stop is with the most common cells in your blood, the absolute workhorses of your entire body, the red blood cells. Just think of them as the ultimate oxygen delivery crew.
What's so amazing about these cells is how perfectly they are built for their one single critical job. Get this, to make more room for oxygen, they'd literally get rid of their own nucleus. And that unique donut shape they have, that's not just for looks. It lets them bend and squeeze and fold to get through the tiniest little blood vessels to reach every single part of your body. They're on the job for about 120 days before they get recycled. So efficient.
And what is that super important cargo they're carrying? Well, it's held by a protein called hemoglobin. Each one of these molecules is kind of like a tiny magnet for oxygen. And this is really key. When you hear a doctor talk about something like anemia, this is usually what they mean. You just don't have enough of this vital, oxygen-carrying protein to get the job done right.
So, the CBC doesn't just, count your red blood cells. It's more like a full-on performance review. It checks their size, their quality, and how well they're carrying all that hemoglobin cargo to make sure your delivery crew is in absolute top shape.
Now, I know a CBC report can look a little intimidating with all these acronyms, but they're really just asking some pretty simple questions. MCV asks, hey, are the cells the right size? Because getting too big or too small can be a clue. MCH asks, how much hemoglobin is actually packed into each cell? And MCHC checks how concentrated that hemoglobin is. It's like checking the quality of each individual delivery truck.
And here's another really clever quality check called the RDW. This tells doctors if your red blood cells are all a nice uniform size, or if your body's kind of producing a random mix of different sizes. It's like a quality control inspector on an assembly line, just making sure everything is consistent.
Okay, moving on from the delivery crew, let's meet the body's security detail, its protectors, the immune army, your white blood cells. These are the soldiers, the spies, and the special ops units of your internal defense system.
Now, this army has 5 specialized divisions. You've got the neutrophils, they're the frontline soldiers against bacteria. Lymphocytes, they're the intelligence agents who create antibodies and remember past enemies. Monocytes are the big cleanup crew that just devours debris and invaders. Eosinophils go after parasites and allergic reactions. And basophils, they sound the alarm during an allergic response. The number of each of these gives doctors vital clues about what kind of battle your body might be fighting.
Let's zoom in on the neutrophils for a second. If you have high numbers of these, it often points to a bacterial infection. As soon as your body detects bacteria, it just deploys these guys in huge numbers. They perform this process, it's called phagocytosis, which is really just a fancy way of saying they literally eat the invading bacteria to destroy them.
Then you have the lymphocytes, the intelligence unit. These tend to go up during a viral infection. Your B cells are like tiny weapons factories, pumping out these targeted proteins called antibodies. They're custom-made to lock on to specific invaders. And your T cells, they're the elite assassins, taking out your body's own infected cells. And, this is the really cool part, they remember past enemies, which is what gives you that long-term immunity.
So, we've met the oxygen crew and the immune army. Now, let's talk about the emergency repair team and the superhighway that they all travel on. These tiny little cell fragments are called platelets. Think about it. When you get a cut, platelets are the first responders. They race to the scene, they get all sticky, and they clump together to form a plug. That's what stops the bleeding. Without these little guys, even a small injury could be pretty dangerous.
So, how do all these different cells get around? They all travel in the plasma. This river of life is mostly water, sure, but it's also the transportation network for everything. The cells we've been talking about, nutrients from your food, hormones that are sending messages, and waste products that are on their way out.
So we know what the CBC is measuring, But how on earth do we actually count billions of microscopic cells so quickly and so accurately? Well, the story of the technology itself is actually pretty fascinating. It's wild to think that not too long ago, technicians had to do this by hand. They'd be peering through a microscope, manually clicking a counter for every single cell. It was slow, it was painstaking. Today, automated analyzers do the whole thing in seconds with incredible precision. It's a total game changer.
And the tech behind this is just pure genius. A lot of analyzers use something called the Coulter principle. Just picture a tiny little doorway with an electrical beam across it. As cells pass through, one by one, they break that beam. The machine just counts each break as one cell. And here's the clever part. The size of the blip it creates tells the machine how big the cell is. It's just a simple, elegant way to count and size millions of cells in seconds.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. We've seen all the individual players now, but the real power of the CBC is what it tells us when we look at the whole picture.
Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. It's because this one single test gives us a direct report from the oxygen crew, the immune army, and the repair team all at the exact same time.
And here's why that's so important. Your blood is the ultimate messenger, right? It travels everywhere. So it gives us a window into organs we can't easily see, like your bone marrow, where all these cells are being made. Abnormal counts can be the very first clue for almost anything, from a simple infection to a chronic disease. That's what makes the CBC such an essential tool.
So yeah, it's just one test, but it's so much more than just a simple count. It is a detailed inspection of the fundamental systems that are working to keep you healthy every single moment of the day.
So, the next time you see the results of a CBC, you won't just see a bunch of numbers and acronyms. You'll see a story about your oxygen crew, your immune army, and the whole bustling city inside of you. A story that, thanks to this one test, we are better equipped than ever before to actually understand.